Morning.
Morning. Morning.
Off the mic. Oh, well, welcome to our friends here in the chapel and out on Zoom and Facebook. Last Sunday, on Easter Sunday, we heard from Reverend Madge and Reverend Connie and Reverend Kendra, which was wonderful for them all to speak on the topic of rising up. And Reverend Madge spoke on of these crippling experiences that we may have in our life, and that we can look up, or we can have a hand up and rise up. Reverend Connie spoke on rising our awareness and our consciousness. Reverend Kendra spoke on, the yeast being, like we're the dough and the yeast being the catalyst, and for us to be able to rise in that oven. She also suggested that we could be a pretzel or a baguette. And so I choose to kind of be a pretzel because I get a little twisted sometimes, but it reminds me to remain flexible as well. So that really inspired me to speak on the concept of being more. And to do that, I want to give a little background of how I got here, and not physically here behind the podium, because I vowed and I emphatically declared in another ministerial program that I was not going to be a pulpit minister, was not going to speak behind the podium, and Spirit had something different in mind for me. So I was introduced to the Home Center in 2010 by a dear friend of mine, Kim. And at that time, my life was pretty upside down, and I was in a pretty dark space. And I was asking God at that time. That's what I knew to do, asking God for answers. And I wanted those answers quickly. And I wanted to understand why I was going through what I was going through. And I wanted them to come quickly because I couldn't imagine enduring the pain that I was in for much longer. So I would come to the Home Center and I would sit in the back and I had a little journal and my notebook, and I would just take notes, because I didn't understand all of the words, the messages, a lot of the metaphors that were being used, but somewhere it resonated with me. So I would take my notes and I would research things, or I would ask questions or inspirations. And I remember the first time that I heard Reverend Jay speak on being more. And the way that he said the word more, it penetrated something like in my heart and in my spirit. And I didn't know exactly what that meant for me at the time, but I knew that I did have that deep knowing that this was going to lead me out of this place of suffering and pain that I was in, that it was going to lead me down a path of discovery to be able to heal. So being more, what does that mean? Physically, spiritually, financially? If I want to be more spiritual, I almost want to air quote, like more spiritual, what does that mean? Does that mean I want to be more in alignment with my destiny, my true purpose for being here? Does it mean I want to add more tools to my spiritual toolbox? I want to be more financially stable. Like, who doesn't want to make more money? I want to make more money. I want to create opportunities to increase my earnings. Maybe it means more physically. Like, I want to be more physically fit. I want to be more active. I want to include things in my diet that are going to sustain my body. I want to listen more to my body wisdom and what's right for me. Maybe more means being a better person. And so when I was thinking of the concept of more, I thought I need to include the word less in there. To be in alignment on my path, on my spiritual path, maybe I need to be less judgmental, less in judgment of myself and maybe of others. I definitely know I need to have less ego. Maybe I need to be right. Maybe I need to be able to create these opportunities. Maybe I need to be less fearful. Maybe I need to carry less of a lack mentality. And as I thought about less and more, I thought, wow, what a contrast. And then I realized that there's really a balance, a delicate balance that happens. And that's what allows us to evolve and to heal and to move more towards where we want to be in our lives. After Reverend Jay transitioned, Madge had arranged and invited several of us to meet with a spiritual counselor, Lori, from Willamette Valley Hospice. And she led us into a ritual. And she asked us to write a word that reminded us of Reverend J. Maybe something that he taught, something that he shared with us, whatever the word was. And she had asked each of us to bring a rock and a marker. And so once we had our word, whatever that word was, she asked us to write it down on that rock. And so this was the word that I chose for Reverend J. And so I keep this on my altar or on my dresser as a reminder, am I being congruent in my life? Am I working towards being more, whatever that means for me? And sorry, I believe a large piece of Reverend J's legacy was his passion around the word more and his urgency and that push. And maybe it felt like a shove to many of us. But he did it with such urgency because he wanted us to evolve and he wanted us to explore what more meant for us. So maybe we'll call it an invitation. He invited us to search and to look. It feels a little bit more, we'll reframe it. He invited us to search those things for ourselves. And we know that that looks different for each of us. So I invite you to get curious or remain curious about the things in your life that where you want to evolve, where you want to be, where you want to have more, what more do you want in your life?